Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football by Ben. Today I'll be talking about my top 15 tight ends for the season as of right now. At number 1, this one should be no surprise, I have Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's been the number 1 tight end for the last 3 years, and in that offense, he's just so useful. They use him in the passing game, they use him in the running game. He's just a tight end that they keep on the field at all times. And so Travis Kelce's value, especially with Patrick Mahomes, because he's probably his second favorite target, if not his first, ahead of Tyreek Hill even. So Travis Kelce is a tight end 1, clear cut, and I think he's gonna be a tight end 1 again this next fantasy season. And at number 2, I have George Kittle. George Kittle got hurt last year, so he didn't really play the whole time. But when he did play, George Kittle was phenomenal. And they traded up in the draft. If you didn't know, they're going to have the 3rd pick. And so if they draft a quarterback and he beats out Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that just helps George Kittle's value even more because he's probably the wide receiver 1 in that offense, but as a tight end. And so I do think that going forward, George Kittle is going to have a really good season this season. The tight end I have at number 3 going into the season is Darren Waller. This one's pretty interchangeable. I would say Darren Waller at 3 and Mark Andrews at 4 is my list. So I think they're pretty interchangeable, though, if you have one at 3 and the other one at 4. But I think the top 2 are pretty well set. And right now I have Darren Waller. He's Derek Carr's favorite target in that offense. And, they utilize him so well in that offense. He scored a lot of touchdowns last year. He had a lot of really good games. And so I think as long as they don't draft a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver, I think that Darren Waller will be, again, the favorite target for Derek Carr in that offense. And Mark Andrews is kind of the same thing. Marquise Brown's still developing, and it's the same thing with Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is still developing. And so I think in the future, I think Marquise Brown and Henry Ruggs will be the target in that offense. But as of right now, Lamar Jackson and Derek Carr both like targeting their tight ends, and that just gives value to Darren Waller and Mark Andrews, and that's why they're kind of interchangeable because they both get a lot of targets and catch a lot of passes for their teams. And so Waller last year just had a better year, so I think going into the season, he might have a better year again. And Derek Carr was a little bit more accurate than Lamar Jackson, so I do think that factors in a little bit for the reason why I have Darren Waller a little bit ahead of Mark Andrews this season. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting. So at number 5, I have Robert Tonyan. I think Robert Tonyan's going to have a really good season. He had a really good season last season. And Aaron Rodgers, his second favorite guy to go to last year when Allen Lazard was out was Robert Tonyan. And so I do think that Robert Tonyan could have a really good season this season again. And last year he was second in tight ends and touchdowns, so he might actually even been first. But I think he's going to have a really good season again. Maybe not as many touchdowns, but he might get more targets, might play a little bit more, and he might be on the field more than he was last season, which would be a really good upgrade. And I think that he could have a really good season again 2 years in a row. And, Aaron Rodgers really likes targeting him. Him and Devontae get open really well, so I do think that Robert Tonyan could have a really good season again this season. And then at number 6, I have TJ Hockenson. TJ Hockenson last year for the Detroit Lions was really good, but also it was probably because of Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford likes targeting his tight ends. And so I do think, and also Kenny Golladay was out, and Kenny Golladay is gone now. And Jared Goff's his quarterback. And I don't know how good Jared Goff is with tight ends, and so I do think that might hurt TJ Hockenson a little bit, but I think he'll be still fantasy relevant. He's probably going to get a lot of passes, probably score touchdowns. And, he's just a big guy, and he's been really solid the last 2 years when he's been in the NFL. And so I do think that TJ Hockenson has a high ceiling, but his floor is also pretty high. So I do think that TJ Hockenson is a great fantasy tight end, even if his quarterback is Jared Goff, who's not as much of a passer to the tight end as Matthew Stafford is. At number 7, I have Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert, I think, is pretty much their tight end 1 because Zach Ertz really wasn't very good last year, and he's getting pretty old. They're looking to trade him. So I do think Dallas Goedert will be their tight end 1. And, Jalen Hurts likes Dallas Goedert a lot. And their receivers are still really young, and other than Alshon Jeffrey. But outside of that, the receiving core is very young, and they just got a pretty young team in general. And so I do think that could be a really good season for Dallas Goedert, who I have at number 7. But I don't know if I trust him with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is still getting used to playing in the NFL, and so I do think that will make Dallas Goedert less of a fantasy-relevant tight end, but I do think he's going to be pretty solid this year. And I have him at number 7 right now, but I think that he could either move up or move down, but right now I have him at number 7. And for the first 8, 3 of them are Iowa tight ends, and this is the Iowa tight end that I think is probably, he could have a really good season, but I don't know if Drew Lock's going to be very good this year, so I do think that Noah Fant will be pretty solid this year, but I don't have him as high as Hockenson or Kittle, and, well, Kittle's pretty obvious, but Hockenson, I mean, they're the same draft, same year, and so I do think that Noah Fant, if he has as good of a season as he had last year when he started, I think he could be as good as Hockenson, but I don't know how good Drew Lock's going to be this year. I don't know what Judy's going to be doing. I don't know if Courtland Sutton's going to be back. There's a lot of more pieces in that offense than in TJ Hockenson's offense, where I think TJ Hockenson could lead that offense, where Noah Fant probably won't be the main guy in that offense. I think that Drew Lock will look more towards his wide receivers on the outside for the season. And so that's why I have Noah Fant at 8 and Hockenson ahead of him and George Kittle ahead of him as well. At number 9, going into the season, I have Mike Gesicki. So this one's pretty interesting because the Dolphins have a lot of draft picks in the first round. I don't know who they're going to pick. I don't know if they're going to pick wide receivers or they're going to pick more things to their offense. And so that could hurt Mike Gesicki's value, but I do think that Tua will get better, and that will really help Mike Gesicki. And I think he's a pretty solid tight end. His stature is very good. He's got a really good 40 time for a tight end. He's athletic, and he's 6'6", so he's a big guy. And so I do think that automatically makes him a pretty solid tight end. He was a first-round draft pick. And so I do think that Mike Gesicki could have a really good season, but as of right now, he hasn't really done that much in his career. And partly is probably because of quarterbacks, but Ryan Fitzpatrick's been a really solid quarterback. And so I do think that, I don't know why Mike Gesicki's not having great in his career yet, or had a great season in his career yet, but I think he will coming forward. And so I have him at number 9 right now, but I do think that if they add another wide receiver, he could move down a little bit in my ranking. At number 10, I have a guy that's been a really solid tight end for his whole career. He's in the All-Decade team, 2010, I think. 2010's All-Decade team. Rob Gronkowski. So Rob Gronkowski last year, the first, I think it was 6 games, didn't score a touchdown. But then after that, he was just phenomenal with Tom Brady. And it was definitely because he hasn't played in a year. And so I do think that this next year, Rob Gronkowski will be great for the Buccaneers. And I don't know if he's going to score as many touchdowns as he had last year, but I think that he could. And thinking that he can, I ranked him 10th. I probably could rank him higher, but as of right now, I have Rob Gronkowski at 10. I do think that he's going to get more balls thrown to him, and I do think that in general, he will be as good of a tight end as he was near the end of the year, as he will be the whole season this next year. At number 11, I have Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith played for the Tennessee Titans last year, and the Tennessee Titans offense was very pass-heavy, but also at the same time run-heavy. It was a very, very, very good offense, And so I don't know if Cam Newton is as good of a quarterback as people think, and I don't know if he's going to be thrown to the tight ends, but last year his tight end, I'm pretty sure, was Ryan Izzo, and, nobody probably had him in fantasy last year, and so I think it's going to be interesting if Jonnu Smith's value is lowered, because last year, for most of the year, he was a tight end 2 or 3. And if he gets worse value, which I'm expecting out of him, because I don't know what Cam Newton's going to be like as a quarterback. I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback. I don't know what the New England Patriots are going to do. As of right now, though, with Cam Newton at quarterback, I don't know if I like Jonnu Smith, but I think he's still a solid tight end. And the same thing with Hunter Henry, who's coming up soon. I think they're both really solid tight ends. And I don't know what Cam Newton's going to be like with that offense. And it was only his first year last year, and he didn't really throw the ball to Izzo. So I do think that having a better tight end will help Cam Newton. And so I think Jonnu Smith might have a good year, but also Cam Newton is not as known in his past for throwing the ball to tight ends. I mean, Greg Olsen was pretty solid when he played with him, but outside of that, Greg Olsen was the only tight end that Cam Newton's really thrown to that has had a good season. And I don't know if Jonnu Smith is like Greg Olsen or not. At number 11, I have Logan Thomas. I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick has been a really solid quarterback throughout his career, and Logan Thomas hasn't really played with a good quarterback where he's actually playing in the NFL. And last year, Logan Thomas was really solid with a bad quarterback. And so I do think that this next year, Logan Thomas will be really good, and he'll catch a lot more passes. And I mean, he's not really known for like a deep tight end rush or runner. Like, he doesn't run deep routes as a tight end. He's running close to the line of scrimmage, and I think Ryan Fitzpatrick will get him the ball, and Logan Thomas will have a really good year. And he had a pretty solid year last year, and it wasn't with a great tight end, or with a great quarterback. So I do think that as a tight end, he could maybe get better this year, and maybe their offense is a little bit more pass heavy. And I think that Logan Thomas could have a good season. At number 13, I have a tight end that I've already been talking about a little bit, Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is kind of interesting as well, like I was saying with Jonnu Smith. I don't know how good Cam Newton will be as a quarterback for those tight ends, and I don't know if they're going to draft one, but I do think that Hunter Henry is a little bit better of a tight end, like blocking wise, than Jonnu Smith. But as a receiver, I think Jonnu Smith's got the edge on him, and Jonnu Smith's more of a touchdown guy, and Hunter Henry's more of a receiving kind of guy, and so that gives me the edge for Jonnu Smith as well. And so when Jonnu Smith last year was a tight end 2-3 for half the season, and so I don't think that Hunter Henry will be that good, but he might be close. But I don't know how they're going to do their offense. I don't know if they're going to throw the ball to tight ends a lot in that offense now or what. So I don't know how to rank them. As of right now, I have them ranked 11 and 13. And so I do think that if Cam Newton is very accurate this season, I think that that actually really helps Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. And maybe Cam Newton won't run for as many touchdowns, and instead he'll throw them to Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry. So I think that they could both benefit from having Cam Newton as their quarterback, but I don't know what Cam Newton's going to be like because he hasn't had a good tight end since Greg Olsen. Number 14, I have a guy who's playing on a team now that has Kenny Golladay. And so I do think that's going to hurt his value a little bit, Evan Engram. But I do think that Daniel Jones really likes his tight end, so maybe, just maybe, Evan Engram could have a pretty big season. And having Kenny Golladay on the outside will definitely take away, will definitely have the middle of the field pretty open. And so I do think that could benefit Evan Engram a lot. And Evan Ingram's like a 6'3" quick guy. And so I do think that potentially Evan Engram could have a lot of rack yards this year. And maybe if they throw short passes to him and then he runs for 40 yards down the field, I think that could be a really good thing for Evan Engram this year. Who have at number 14, I do think that Tyler Higbee could have a better season than him, but I really don't know what Matthew Stafford's going to bring to that offense yet. And so right now I have Evan Engram at number 14. And then at number 15, I have Austin Hooper, actually, because Austin Hooper, before he got his kidney, something with his kidney, I think. I don't remember. But he got hurt last year, and he missed like a couple weeks, and that really hurt his fantasy value because at the beginning of the season, he really wasn't like utilized in that offense. And then by the end of the season, he was like really utilized in that offense, and I hope that it can continue because when he was with the Falcons, he was really good. And then when he came to the Browns, he wasn't as good as he was with the Falcons because Matt Ryan likes targeting his tight ends. And so I do think that maybe Austin Hooper will have a better season the second season because he's a good receiving tight end and he's a good all-around tight end in general. But I think that he will benefit from the second year, and I think Baker Mayfield will look for him more than what he did the first couple games of the season. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next video tomorrow. Peace.